welcome to this very interesting and mind and thought-provoking workshop. I was asked to introduce myself. My name is Gregor Reti, and I used to work for 16 years for the music business. I used to make a lot of money, and I married into a very wealthy family. And that one day I got in such depression that I wanted to kill myself. And that was the point of turn. And I will share with you all the experiences and kind of a Buddhistic aspect to that. It's called self-realization, and how self-realization can help you in maintaining a healthy love and also sex relationship. Sometimes they're not the same. Sometimes people have a love relationship, on the other side they have a sex relationship. But what we need to learn is being courageous and be ourselves. First finding ourselves, know what we are and where we want to be. So I'm speaking a little bit about spiritual stuff, and then we're gonna go into the sexual part of it. We will visit some statistics about sexual fantasies and practices. But I was asked many times, how did I get into this situation that I, got so spiritual? And I had an accident when I was 13 years old. It was a drug accident, and I died. It was not near death, it was kind of full-blown. I was sniffing glue hidden in a little boat with tall reeds with a friend, and something went wrong, terribly wrong. I got a spasm, I couldn't remove the plastic bag from my mouth, and suddenly I started to unlock from my body. It went slowly, and started to like vibrating and humming, and it got faster and faster, and I was shooting through the space kind of like speed of light. It was extremely bright and rumbling. And after 15-20 minutes I arrived at a place which was absolutely marvelous, beautiful. You must have heard that many times, that it was really beautiful, and I wanted to stay there, but I was still in panic. I was like, suddenly a voice said, "Hey, calm down, you need to make a decision." And I felt so happy that there is something, because until then I thought I'm done. I said, "Okay, what's the decision?" He said, "Do you want to stay here or you want to go back to your 13-year-old body?" And I said, "Oh my God, what should I do?" Looking around, I really loved it. I had a horrible childhood. I've been beaten thousands of times. I was bleeding many times. I was in hospital. I was put into boarding schools. I have ADHD. The list goes on, but I was thinking, you know what, there was so much energy going into this little body of 13 years, and I'm gonna be independent soon. It's kind of a waste to throw it away. So it asked me, did you make your decision? I said, yes, I want to go back into that body. And then it asked me again, are you really sure? I'm like, wow, yes, I'm sure, because it's a 13-year-old body. It takes so much energy and time and everything to like put it together. And you know what? I'm gonna be here back anyway at one point, at one time. I don't know how many years, but I'm gonna be back here. Then it said, good decision. I would have picked the same. I was like, fuck. Oh, wow. I get a compliment from this whatever. It didn't have a body shape or anything. It was like just an authority, but very intelligent, very cool, not pushing his or her agenda, like really letting me decide. So I wanted to negotiate. Oh, let me be here for another 5 minutes, just to like enjoy it and suck it up. I said, no way. I was like falling backwards, almost into like a water funnel, like in the water parks, and flying back with this speed of light for like 15-20 minutes. Then I'm getting over my body I see my body in the boat. I'm getting like, oh my God, and then I'm looking around. There's another pier, which I couldn't see from the ground, but from coming down, there was another pier, L-shaped pier, and there's a blue and a red rowing boat, like a fisherman's boat or whatever. So I'm going down, oh, suddenly it makes this huge pop, And I was back in my body, and I was like, the first thing I did is like rubbing my fingers in front of my eyes, could not believe what a complex machinery that is. I can see, I can direct, I can feel. And it all works with the me, which was just totally gone somewhere else. So I see that, but I couldn't speak. Words were totally unnecessary. So I was like getting up and quickly going around and finding another pier where the blue and the red boat supposed to be. So I'm going around, there was a gate, was locked, and I'm going around it, and I cut myself, I don't care. I go down the pier, I thought it's end. Then I see it has a right turn, like an L shape. I go to the and I'm looking there, and there's the red and the blue boat. It was the happiest moment of my life. The reason for that is nobody can take this away from me. I know that there is an afterlife. I know that the sense of me can be without my body. And that took away the strongest fear, which psychologists say humans have, is the death of fear. So I'm not scared of death. And at the same time, it took away a lot of other fears, like social fears, social anxiety, and stuff like that. And then that's where we go slowly into the situation of sex. Because sex is an area where we have the most demons and the most insecurities and self-doubts. We don't know who we are. We don't know at what point we are. Is our sexuality normal, or is it kind of weird? And then there's no reference points. I mean, you can read as much magazines and books you want, but you don't get ahead with it. You know, you still don't know. And we bring this insecurity into the relationship, which can be the kiss of death. As we all know, I've been married for 16 years. I have 2 children, but I had to get out of there. I was so alone, like super, super alone. I had kids, I had a wife, I had yachting vacations, snowboard vacations in Utah, and scuba diving trips, and whatever you can imagine. I mean, we had a lot of money. Big house in Hollywood Hills with 3 cars, BMW, everything. I mean, what else can you want, theoretically, by society standards? But the soul was dying of loneliness. And unfortunately, many people have relationships where they bring this loneliness somehow into the relationship. And we allow ourselves, it's not allowing ourselves, I would say it's a lack of courage to open up to our vulnerabilities. And sex is an area where we're extremely vulnerable. I will come up with some statistics and everything. You're going to be like, really, whoa, never thought that. But that's really good because there are 2 main companies I like. They bring out annual statistics. The one is Pornhub. Anybody knows Pornhub? I certainly know. Anyway, it's the largest porn internet provider in the world. And they have the machines count everything. It's a computer system that counts it. And it really shows you, like, for example, how many women watch porn. And it's like a steadily inclining number. 30% of Pornhub visitors are women. I mean, who would have thought? We always think, oh, women are not supposed to look at these things or whatever. It's really crazy. Also, something else, just to break the myth right away, we're going to go into the numbers later, but I was amazed when I read that according to Pornhub, which is counted correctly, 195% more women watch lesbian themes than men on porn. So it's just some of the things which gives you a little thought of, you know, food for thought, like, oh, you know, I sometimes think that, or I masturbate to that, and, you know, I must be weird. No, nobody's weird. Nobody's weird. You know what, let's jump into that a little bit around. We started now the numbers. I need to tell you some of these numbers. So for example, I know it's a very difficult subject because the political correctness in today's environment, social environment, but this is sex, right? So it's not always politically correct. It's like being forced to have sex as a fantasy, right? It's 29% of women and 31% of men. So there you go again. It's like you think that, you know, it's always the woman who has to be this or that, but we men like it too, you know? It's like, why don't we take turns in a healthy, good relationship? Number one, you open up, you have the courage, and then if you feel shame or whatever, you possibly don't want to speak it out, and you can do porn watching sessions like once a week or so together. That makes sweet love. Do that, what you just watched. Huffington Post, which is a very strong media in LA. I'm from Los Angeles, by the way. Huffington Post is a really good media, and they had the new generation, the X generation or the millennial generation, reported back couples who watch porn together have an 82% higher satisfaction rate in their sex lives. So there we go. It's what we're doing here is like I just tell you these numbers and everything, and you could be, you know, part of the movement, because you go out into the world, into all the other countries, and you speak to friends and have future lovers and what have you, and just say, you know what, it's really important to be honest. It's really important to have courage to speak about these things, because otherwise we burn out. And everybody been there. I certainly been there many times. Relationship is so hard, first few months and whatever, and then you go into the first year or whatever, and like it gets kind of boring, you know. It's like, how many times can you do the same licky licky, sucky sucky, fucky fucky in the same bed, in the same position, at the same time of the week, right? I mean, like, that's also a very interesting statistic. The only statistic in which male and female match of sexual fantasies is making love in an unusual place, something like public place or in a lake or swimming pool or in the garage or in the elevator, whatever. 87% of women and 87% of men dream about that. So what does that indicate? We don't do it enough. We don't dare to do something new, you know? And sex is creativity. It's not only like just painting a Picasso painting or making a beautiful guitar song or whatever, but sex is something you take your time and you really are there for each other. Kind of bring in a little bit of selflessness into it. Like, I don't need to have my orgasm right away. And you also bring playfulness into it. Because you can, if you do it right, you can do it for hours. And you take turns. And you take roles on, role plays. Anybody did experience role play before in sex? Oh, wonderful hands, I love it. All right, we can speak about that later too. This is also a good statistic. Having sex not with your partner. 66% of women fantasize about that. Because we still have this imagination of, you know, the 50s housewife, you know, washing, cleaning, being there for her master, blowing him, and that's it, and she has no other rights whatsoever, no other fantasies. Yeah, so that's the, there's another interesting one. Giving oral sex. 72% of women and 78% of men fantasize about that. Isn't that amazing? So that kind of tells that possibly people don't do enough oral. Okay, I have to add to this. These are North American numbers, Canada and USA. And it's, yeah, it's funny, but Americans have a germ phobia. Sometimes they're scared of bacteria. Anyway, having sex with more than 3 people, that's 57% of women fantasize about that, and only 16% of men. Look at that. That kind of indicates to me the man may be a little bit jealous if there's a woman to share, but a woman wouldn't mind to be shared. So these numbers have a lot of impact of what is really the reality and what is the reference points. All right. I cannot remember all these numbers. Oh, I love this one. Um, Women who feel bad about having small breasts. This says that having sex with women with very small breasts, 52% of men fantasize to that. Can you believe it? Like most women, like they hide it and they push a bra and Victoria's Secret, this and that. No, be proud, expose it or show it at festivals and what have you, because men like it. Oh, there's another one, a myth buster. Sex with someone much older. 48% of men masturbate to that. Somebody much older, because they always say, "Oh, men always like the young girls and what have you." It's not even true. Also in the Pornhub statistics, the number one search term, pretty much worldwide, independent from culture, is MILF. Mothers I like to fuck. So men are not really gravitating to the 18-year-old innocent something, which we all think they do. They like older, more experienced women. Possibly also because they know more what they want. All right. Okay, then we have should we jump a little bit back to maybe spirituality, so that we can go into the subject a little bit? Okay, just a very important one, which is polarization. So what happened after I came back from death, and then I had many years to live from it and what have you, I realized that there is something, what I experienced as me, which was my soul, and I went all the way up there, and I was in a wonderful place, and it was awesome. But then when I came back and I continued my life, I was under this pressure and wanting to be accepted, and I wanted to have girlfriends and being rejected. And then this whole mess started, and I realized, until I heard the terminology of ego. I'm not talking about Freud's definition of ego, I talk about the Buddhistic word ego, which is the counter polarity of the soul. And what is very important is that everything we know, everything we can touch, everybody we can see, has polarity. This whole universe is full of polarity. It starts with the smallest piece, which is the atom. There's the electron spinning around the proton, and then the Earth has the North Pole and the South Pole. It's a polarization. It spins around. The moon spins around the Earth and the moon around the sun. So everything has a polarization. What we need to understand is that exactly the same polarization is going on inside our heads and our hearts. Our emotions and our brain has this amazing polarity, which means you have the soul, and the strongest force with the soul is love. And everything else positive falls under love. Love is the main thing, and then you have creativity, trust, feeling one with the other. What's the word? Anyway, sharing, being generous, being creative, creativity, everything falls under love. And the other counter polarity is the ego, and the main term under ego is fear. So the only way you can catch your ego and feel your ego and start to controlling your ego is pay attention to your fears. And this can be insecurity, this can be self-doubt, and this is where things come together in love, That's where you feel it very strongly, because fear is always there. So what we need to realize, that this polarity, which we have all around everywhere, we have it inside of our head. It's always the love, fear, love, fear, love, fear, and they're fucking with each other all the time, and we cannot stop that. But what we can do is step back and become an observer. That's what Buddha said. Buddha was the first one who said, you know what? We need to accept it because it's a part of this universe, the polarity. We need the negative and the positive. We cannot kill it, but we can step away from it and disidentify. Very important word. These are my thoughts. These are my fears. These are my insecurities. But it's not me. It's not my soul. And when you get this, it's a very, very subtle switch. If you accept that, if you realize that, in the next few days, every time you feel the fear coming up, of social fear, of course, not fear of bears, but you know what I mean, like when you're in a relationship or when you try to make a relationship. It's a wonderful venue, these kind of festivals, because you can really speak to a lot of people without fearing the rejection, you know? So the rejection is a bitch. It's painful for everybody, men and women alike. So what can we do? How can we, number one, we become aware. That's the observer part. You step back, what Buddha said, you just start looking at it. But at the same time, you need courage. Courage is the best buddy, the best partner for your soul, and the best buddy for your love, the best buddy for your creativity. And courage is the one which creates communication. And communication in sex is the key. Because otherwise, people have no clue what's going on. Of course, they dig into the pussy, but that's not it, obviously. There is a lot behind it. And how wonderful is it to come together with your partner, as a majority of cases. Because you start knowing, get to know your partner, and you know what she likes or he likes, and then you do it. And sometimes you can be even creative. As I said, you do role plays, and you can drag it out. You can drag it out for the whole night. You take some whatever substances you have at home, a few bottles of wine, and then you start like playing a role play. The great thing about role play is, people who experienced it, several here, that it becomes a reality of sorts. If you both believe in your roles in a role play, it's amazing how it snaps and you are what you're playing. It's really interesting. It's almost like a new reality you create. And that's really fulfilling. That's really amazing. And that is keeping relationships together. That is where you can work on your selfless love, you know, the giving. Sex is really awesome when you use it right, but not for your own purpose, like, I want to come now. No, that's not how it goes. So we spoke a little bit also about the fantasies, of sexual fantasies. And this is where I usually open up, because I want to keep it a little bit more interactive than just a plain monologue. And what we do is usually ask people if they ever felt bad about a certain fantasy, or did they have a bad experience sharing a fantasy with a partner or something like that. And I will ask, anybody wants to, yay, 1 sec.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm Tom Tommaso from Italy, and I always try to be clear and to express my feelings, but there were no acceptance in my case, you know. Just and so my relationship it turns in like addiction, affectivity addiction that I found also yesterday in the workshop on psychedelics to fight affective capitalism. And what I want to share is that I experienced the chain that can be attached to some needs, maybe some missing. And there are people that instead of living, try to, I don't know, I want to be with you. So I just, you know, I want just the A of your alphabet because I like the A or the C, but it's one letter in a world, you know, and it's bad when you are attached to somebody who love you, and this is just a machine to move you. Thanks.
Thank you. It really helps that you brought up this subject, because this is really what love and relationships is about. It's good that I spoke about the polarity, right? The love and the fear, the soul and the ego. And that's exactly the problem which we all went through, whoever has been in a relationship. Because what the ego does is, you want to seek, first of all, the other side makes you feel good. It gives you euphoria. It gives you acceptance. Everything which we should have got from our parents, but many, including me, did not, right? So you suddenly find that it's a shining light, it's a god, a goddess, who gives you that confirmation back. And you get dependent. It's like a drug. You're like, I need my next fix. And you go back, and you go back. And meanwhile, the ego is sabotaging. It does anything it can to make you not happy. What is the weakness? Why is he or she always late? Why doesn't she clean up the kitchen, or he? Why does she suddenly not touch me and caress me like she used to? Or why doesn't he bring me flowers like he used to the first few days? You know, these things, they get blown up and blown up and blown up until the scale falls on the other side. It's a dependency, yes, and it's a codependency, yes. And very passionate relationships, and I've been in one. I met my soulmate out of the blue. It was, I can speak about that if anybody's interested. But we were completely codependent on each other. And it was a disaster in the end. We were like, we couldn't breathe anymore. And I just can suggest to everybody who's here, fortunately, and thinks about it and it interests you, to think about, number one, selfless love, to become more selfless, which also means to control your fears. Allow your partner to do whatever he or she wants. Because that's really that liberates you. Of course, first you are fearful, because yeah, she may go off to a festival with another guy, or the other way around, if it's a guy then a girl. But the point is, he or she comes back, and you are the king, or the queen. Because that's ultimate love. I trust you, you can do whatever you want. If it makes you happier to have sex with somebody else, that fulfills me, because it's happiness to you. That's the ultimate blow to the ego, by the way. But it has a lot of potential. So the selflessness aspect and trust. You have to trust yourself. Don't believe that devil ego. Oh, I'm too old. My dick is too small. My tits are too small. I smell funny. Whatever. This all this crap. Just because we are wonderful beings. Absolutely. We are. You guys know how many atoms we have in our fucking body? Oh, recording, sorry. How many atoms we have in our body, people? 200 octillion atoms. That is a 2 with 27 zeros. And astrophysicists think this number is higher than there are stars in the universe. That's our body. And even more trippy is that now we know that atoms behave according to what we do and how we see them. The double slit experience, I know I'm going a little bit now into physics, is when the double slit experience, when the atom is measured, then it comes across on the other side as a particle. If the measurement is off, it comes across like a wave, like an energy wave. It's not even a particle. Only when we look at it, it becomes a particle. That means the atom has some sort of consciousness. Can you believe you have 200 octillion atoms in your body with their own consciousness? And you have your own consciousness on top of that. And then you still have this battle with your ego, like, oh, she's messing around with other guys, or he kissed that girl, or, it's really, it puts things into perspective. Thank you for your question. Anybody else has a doubt, question, or when they had a problem with their sex life, with their sex practice or sex wishes, or somebody did not understand them? Do you?
Yeah, I asked myself, this process like is within two people, but also like two separate processes, like me concerning my ego and my sexuality and my fears. And if I imagine like starting to walk this path and then come to a certain point and then wanting to share that with my partner and still loving him a lot, but he doesn't get any of these things that we are talking about right now, what would be like the most appropriate way to like show a person about the treasures of this kind of process?
Yeah, that's as we all know, and has have been in experience that relationships sometimes don't sync up completely in terms of our energy or level of our consciousness. So it's kind of important to do a load of communication. And yes, in that we men are not as good, as we all know, and but it's partially also our social conditioning, because we are not being brought up like girls, because girls are always being asked how they feel and what's going on with them, and it's the female, and the male is like, shut up and work, and shut up, do sports, and don't cry when you hurt yourself. So there is an issue of communication, and what I say, at least for sex and for the ego in a relationship where obviously both of them have an ego, it's very good to put like one day in the week aside. Let's say Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock in the evening, you get a bottle of wine and a few joints, and you smoke and drink it, and all you do is communication. And if you have like jealousy issues, then you open up and speak about, what happened this week, who reflected back to me at the coffee shop. The guy was like making me compliments, or the guy was like, yeah, I saw this girl in the school or in the university, and you just speak openly. It's very, very important, because it's proven that relationships with strong communication are the longest lasting ones. It's really interesting also in terms of statistics, like Holland. Anybody here from Netherlands? Oh, too bad. I have a compliment. What? Awesome. Netherlands has the highest duration of relationships. And interestingly, not only that they are one of the most communicative societies, they're also very open in sex. They're really easy to talk about sex, and they also have one of the highest married couples visiting swingers clubs, where you have sex in the public or with others, but you decide you can just have it just in just by yourself with others, or you can share and what have you. And interestingly, those are the longest lasting relationships. So naturally what we think, oh my God, if you open up for a threesome or going to an orgy, like Burning Man has an orgy dome. It's an own camp dedicated for orgy, meaning, but it has two different sections. The one section is where you go in with your partner, and you stay there by yourself. You don't participate with others, but everybody's around you, and you can see everything, and they can see you. It's very exciting, by the way. It's really cool. And then there's the other part where people can freely ask for permission. So if you ask for permission, then they say, okay, then you can have some fun together. But interesting how these kind of thoughts of like threesome or orgies or swingers, people think naturally like, oh my God, it's gonna endanger my relationship. I mean, I'm putting myself into losing my partner. And it's not true. The actual statistics go up that you stay much longer together, because you reduce your fear, you conquer your fear, you conquer your ego. It's really a poison. But the ego, as I said, is also the doubt. And I have this quote. I had to walk over here because I cannot memorize that. And that was Buddha said 2,700 years ago about doubt, which is, again, the fear. There is nothing more dreadful than the habit of doubt. Doubt separates people. It is a poison that disintegrates friendships and breaks up pleasant relations. It is a thorn that irritates and hurts. It is a sword that kills. That's what Buddha said 2,700 years ago. They didn't have Tesla and iPhones back then, but the core of our inside is exactly the same. We didn't develop. Well, we want to believe it, but okay, we have better medicine, what have you, but the inside struggle, the doubt, the self-doubt, and, being insecure was always there, will be always there, because we are in this polarized field. Yeah, the question was, did I answer your question? Okay, 1 second, can somebody run? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yasin, and I feel you, like I understand everything you're saying, but I have one paradox problem since 1 year with the whole topic, and that is, like, I'm polyamorous, like I can love more people at one time, like really love them. For me, the word appreciation is even more better than love, because you can appreciate the person. But what if you're loving a person that is not polyamorous, and she cannot really understand the topic, and you're loving also other persons, and now you have to decide whether you act of fear of hurting the other person that is not polyamorous, but then you don't love any other person you want to love, or you act of love for yourself and the other persons that you actually love. So, or you act of love for the person you don't actually want to hurt. So it's like a paradox, and I'm not really sure how I'm gonna like work with that. So everything else I'm good with it, but this is like my only problem with the whole topic is I don't want to hurt anyone just because I'm loving someone else. And not everyone can understand this topic, because not everyone is polyamorous. They think it's good to have one partner. It's like a safe, good relationship, also without attachment or anything, like just normal loving each other. But I don't know what to do or how I'm gonna do it without hurting people.
Wow, this was a very, very intelligent and awareness-provoking question. And as he just pointed out, it's a very tricky situation of how do you behave, how do you react to others who are not on your wavelength yet. I believe, and as you can see around in the world, there is a crust of us whose awareness level goes up so tremendously. We became, I mean, you can certify for that. Your consciousness level compared to like 5 years ago and where you are today, right? So everybody feels that, everybody can witness that. Polyamory, I think it's a very noble and very positive and a very fearless, very ego-crushing. Is it an idea or is it a practice? I would say it's in between, because I know many people in LA and Nevada and Las Vegas and Los Angeles who are practicing polyamory. But every time I go in deeper conversations with them, it's more like of an arrangement between the mind and the wanting to be good to the other. I don't want to drag down polyamory. Actually, it's my highest aim is to get myself there as the next. I'm not in a relationship. I was in 7 years with a soulmate, and then 7 years no relationship. I was dedicating my life of writing this book, Sex and Ego Death. It will be out soon. You can go on the Facebook, give me a like, and just refer that you were here at Ozora. I can send you chapters for free. I'm doing this all for free. I'm not getting any money here either of speaking. I'm going to Burning Man from here. I'm running a whole camp, 400-person camp. So I do all kind of stuff, but I'm not taking money anymore. This was one of my fear factors. But bringing a partner in a polyamory situation for them to understand. No, that's a challenge. I completely feel your pain. Because for me is like, whenever I will be able to start a new relation, I mean, I feel like I'm ready. So I just opened up. And I have to teach myself that process, which we spoke about before, that we feel like you give me something, I need more of that. This positivity, this euphoria, this love, this acceptance. To let go of that is really challenging. So for me, polyamory is more difficult from my end, because I don't care what she does, with whom she does it. I have friends, they describe me all the sexual experience, even at Ozora they had. So it's all good, but I want to be happy for you. You know what I mean? It's like, you are not mine. This clinging on and ownership. It's really interesting, which just comes to mind is, I just saw a documentary that they found a village from like 18, 20,000 years ago in Anatolia. And it was like it was a tribal community, something like why we like festivals so much, because it brings us back into our instincts of tribal living together. And they made DNA tests because they buried the dead people under the rooms where they lived in and put clay over, so it was sealed and everything. And so they tested the DNA, and the DNA was sporadically all over the place, meaning nobody had their children with them. They made children, and the children were distributed. And they shared everything. They shared women, they shared children, they shared the hunting, they shared everything. And that's for how we humans lived for 160, 180,000 years. Only for the last 6,000 years, when we started the agriculture, and then came the problem with the land rights. So if we do all agriculture, who gets the land if you don't know whose children they are? So from my perspective, it's how we turn from, into monogamy. The reason for that is land rights and money. And accidentally, that's exactly what I feel when I'm in love. I want you for me. You are mine. Like I have a right, like a land right, I have a woman right. You know what I mean? I mean, I exaggerate a bit, but think about these things. Where does the wind blow from? What's the truth? In our sex and relationships. There was a question before, wasn't there? There.
Hi. Thank you for everything you just said. Louder. Thank you. Yeah, I really agree with all that you just said. And I don't know, sharing love for me like you talking about relationship, and I think I always even made a difference between a relationship with a guy and with a woman. Just separate the female and the male. It's not supposed to. If you have a, how do you say, like normal relation with someone, it's not necessarily different. So yeah, used to split people, and more when it's come from only men. Like you spread people one more time. It's horrible. And but that feels good to actually see it now. So now, yeah, I have to work with it. I have to see people. I have to watch you. I'm sorry, I'm watching you. And I think it's also linked to this sexual emotional problem, attracted, like every times want more, that's for sure. And yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for this comment. It's really what I heard between the lines is what you're looking for, and I'm the same, I'm going this way, is that I want to see your soul, and I don't care about the packaging anymore. I really want to, and how do I see the soul, and how do I fall in love? I mean, lately I really have it with respect. I have the new thing, as relatively new thing, that I want to be selfless. It's hard to say that because people know me, they know I have an ego. But you know, I'm battling it literally consciously every minute of my awake life. Even in my dreams, I'm battling it. But what you say is like, is it a man, is it a woman? And you know, try to find the soul. Try to find a soul and make it independent. And I think we are towards a revolution of bisexuality. I mean, the numbers have not really emerged as of yet, but what I see with polyamory and holding these workshops everywhere, I have more and more about that. And I have some statistics, and as I said, I think I mentioned it before, that of lesbian-themed porns, it's 195% more women watch lesbian-themed porns than men. And giving oral, I did not mention this statistic before. There is a statistic which is really strange because this was done by University of Montreal, and it encompassed a wide segment of normal people. I have to laugh when I hear this word, but anyway, average people. And 27% of men have the sexual fantasy of giving oral to another man. In other words, men are, more than every fourth man is fantasizing about, not always, obviously. That doesn't make them gay. But wouldn't it be wonderful if they can just let go and experience it? So, and the same with women, you know, it's like watching these porns and what have you. So we should, in a relationship, really allow each other to have space, damn it. I mean, that's really what it is. It's without the fear that we, oh my God, he or she turns, you know, the other way. 1 second, can somebody?
Thank you. So, hi. I think this is kind of a deep question. So I've made the experience with sex because you talked about physical attachment and like dependency, which I've realized in the past has occurred a lot. And because in my past relationships, I've realized that the dependency was really, really strong. And afterwards, I kind of felt like I was falling into some kind of hole because I was missing the other person's touch and everything. And I've realized that there's this kind of circle that I'm finding myself in, that this keeps happening to me. Like I keep meeting a person and I attach myself to them in my mind, and then they go away, and then I'm really, really sad, and I feel like I'm trying to find my love in other people instead of myself. And so my question is, how do I pursue the love that I need out of me and not out of other persons? Thank you.
That is really, really sweet, and I give you big applause for opening up yourself to this vulnerability. And you know what? That what you just said, even it may feel strange in front of a lot of people to say that, that's exactly what we all have, no exception. Join the club. So the point is, how do you handle this issue of okay, falling in love? It's psychologically speaking, it's like, as you said, it's making myself dependent on you. That is falling in love. And unfortunately, the word love is very basic, you know. Like in Hindu, they have 12 different words for love. In English, we have one. Even making love, which means fucking. Like, hello, what does that have to do with love? But the thing is like selfless love. I like to add that in front of it, because when you start experiencing that, and I would suggest just try it out. I'm not sure if it works, but in the next hottie situation that you have, your heart is beating and everything, speak about it. You know, first of all, it's really painful if I'm, you know, if that happens again to me, what happened before, and tell me what you feel. So you start a communication, very strong communication about that specific item, and that makes your ego, it opens up the fear a little bit. Because it possibly, very easily possibly, that you are the one who kills the relationships. It's not like they want to go away or whatever, but they feel this capturing, this hardcore attachment, and they don't want to deal with it. And instead of speaking about it, what's the background of it? Like, let's say your parents divorced and you haven't seen your father in whatever years, and that is an abandonment which we as children bring into the relationships. Abandonment issues, the fear of abandonment. So if anybody has that issue, speak it out with your partner, because many times you're going to be surprised how much they have it too. But we both try to hide it because we want to be super cool. Like James Dean, I have no pain. But James Dean, who's the super coolest, cries a lot in the movies. Isn't that crazy? He shows vulnerability. That's why he is cool. That's what we can do too. We can copy the idea. Oh, let's be James Dean. And then I'm afraid, I'm jealous, it hurts, I don't want to be alone. Da-da-da-dum, speak it out. And then your partner comes, I have the same issues, I have the same feeling. All right, anybody else? Question? Oh, yes. Oh, you can bring it.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to ask a question, but then when you mentioned Burning Man orgy camp, I just got a free ticket and I just got accepted to that camp. And basically, I've done Ozora 3 times and boom, without my girlfriend. And it's been easy. I literally have not been sexually attracted to a single girl. But we moved in together 6 months ago, and the sex has been like not happening too often. So there's been all these negative thoughts, and I do ayahuasca like 10 times a year, and then after, amazing sex for a whole week. But I don't want to resort to having to drink ayahuasca every time. So really your words have been resonated a lot and really helped. Question, I think I've forgotten the question. We'll chat after.
I heard your question. Okay, actually you said your question by what happens if you are in a relationship and you just get together and suddenly things do not click on a sexual level, and that you want to avoid having to take ayahuasca regularly to have great sex. Very easy, you just buy Viagra. No, I'm just... No, okay, so the point is that it's interesting that you mentioned ayahuasca as a drug, because who experienced ayahuasca? It's a heavy... ayahuasca is a psychotropic from the rainforest. It's 2 different vines, and you cook it for 5 hours, and you eat it, and it trips you out balls. But what it does, in my opinion, is it cleans your soul. It cleans your love from crusty assumptions and stuff like that. I think why you make better love after ayahuasca is because you're more pure, and your soul is more pure. It's not an ayahuasca is a heavy blow to the ego. By the way, I had also an ayahuasca experience. I need to share, because I'm telling you guys, be more courageous, talk to your partners in sex about everything. I had a secret for until 6-7 years ago. I'm transgender. I feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. My body is not bad. I mean, I love it in terms of it's good, but my identity was always being a woman. It's almost like I wake up in the morning and where are my breasts? Where's my... and then oh my God, okay, whatever. I have to get used to it. Another day in a man's body. It's almost like I'm a guest in the wrong house or whatever. And I did ayahuasca. And it was really strange, because there's no coincidences, especially when it goes into psychedelics. The shaman was a black woman, had given everybody like, I would say like, I don't know, 0.1 liter to everybody. I came in line, and she takes out my cup and gives me one of those big plastic beer cups, like 40% full. I was like, no, you cannot do this to me. And she says, No, you need it. I said, excuse me. So I take my little cup and go aside. I'm trying to like sip it and looking at the plants where if we can like accidentally sip a little bit. But she checked me. She like fixated me with the eyes. Everywhere I went, I said, okay, no go. I drank it. And that was my first ayahuasca. And I did it 12 times. And I was the only one in all 12 times who didn't feel anything. Especially with the first big one, I was like, and people were like laughing and crying and talking to their grandmother who died 10 years ago, and everybody's on a roll, and I'm like, nothing. I go home, into the loft, wherever that was, in Los Angeles. Just came back from Burning Man. And at Burning Man, I had still my duffel bag with high heels, corset, nylons, everything, makeup, long hair. I'm looking at the bag, we're like, what? Yeah, I know that I put that on, but I could not. I had a total jump in identification. My identification switched, like, inexplainably, completely. And I put this whole thing away for like 8 months. I was a man because of ayahuasca. And that's what ayahuasca did to me. Anybody else had some kind of psychedelic sexual experience you want to share? That would be nice. Ooh, there's somebody in the back. Oh.
Hi, I'm David. I wouldn't say that it was sexual, but it was all about love. I had an issue with love, actually. Like, as you said, we attach. We want something. Falling in love is like, I want you to love me forever, and that's why we hold on to each other. So, in the past, I had beautiful experience with MDMA, where I just opened up to myself and I just felt love, external love to myself and to everyone. And here on Wednesday, when there was this big rain, everyone remembers, I was at Ambis and I was planning to take MDMA, and somehow I don't know, the coincidence brought me a girl next to me. After the rain, we wasn't talking, we were just laying next to each other. Because of the rain, it was a bit cold, so we were a little bit like, we were touching each other. And then I started to listen my inside talk, my ego talk. So now I should take the MDMA with her? Like, what would happen? So I took the M, and also I brought some water because you need water when you have MDMA. And I was just laying next to her and listening to my ego talk, but MDMA started to working, and I was like, I had the same experience when I was alone, that, oh my God, I want you, I want your love, but also I love everyone. I love my father, I love my brother, I love you. And I felt this great love that, oh my God, and also she made me like these little movements that, yeah, I love you too, but love is also to let go. So at one point, she was like sitting up, and I was looking at her like, okay, now we're gonna be together forever. Like, oh my God, you made me laugh. So finally I find you. Yeah, this was so good. And but she wasn't an MDMA, so she was just. So she started to walk away, and I was like, okay, let's go wherever you want to go. So I still was in the thinking that we are together, but she was like, what do you want from me? So, so I was looking straight into her eye, and I was like, I love you. You made me love you. You showed me what is love together. And I was like talking to her soul, really, because she said that, yeah, I felt you, but love is to let go. Love is to let go. So on MDMA, it was easy to let go that, okay, maybe you are not my soulmate, or maybe this is love. Love is inside and not outside. And it really changed me, like, about how to look at people. Because then I had an issue about loving men. Like when I was maybe 6 years old in primary school, we were playing together with my friend, like little bit homosexual. Like I didn't know what is it at that time, but since then I brought that with myself. I didn't share this with anyone yet. Like the shame that we carry, that was my shame. So I was like, after leaving this girl, I was running to the main stage because I thought that, okay, there are beautiful girls who are on MDMA maybe. I could find someone, you know. My thinking started again that, oh yeah, I'm gonna find. But MDMA brought me this guy. I don't know, like, if you really love everyone, then come on, come on. And I was like, really? I have to do this? I'm like, but MDMA again was there, and I was like, okay, we danced together, and I was like starting to touch her, and like I started to enjoy, like the shame went away, and we. Thank you. So it's really a healing drug, MDMA. What I could suggest, maybe if you have a relationship, just both of you take an MDMA and just don't talk, just hug each other and listen to the inner talker, that what you feel, what you sense, and maybe you understand love with MDMA. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I think it will be about time that we slowly wrap it up. Just for you to understand, I'm going to here and invite you to come along to behind the pyramid. If anybody has any questions or want to exchange something more about your inner core and your soul, please come along and do that. In my experience, it's usually a lot of people feel freer to talk in small groups than in front of a microphone. So if you have time for the next 30, 40 minutes, come to the pyramid in the shadow. It's the one thing I just wanted to add to his thing. MDMA is, yes, it's a very positive, intelligent drug. It helps to build and rebuild screwed up relationships. People who have been highly traumatized, like US war soldiers, war veterans, they come back and they want to kill themselves. They're like on antidepressants, everything. They take 2 MDMA sessions administered and they're healed. They just step out from this whole shit they were in. So the same for relationship. If your relationship is in a deadlock and you feel like you cannot move on or anything, both of you take something and also have a little conversation, also just feel yourself and remember those moments, because that's where the soul is talking, not the ego. And who's the next speaker here? Oh, you're the next speaker? No. No, we have to wrap it up because 11 o'clock, it's over. Okay, then let's continue until somebody stops us, huh? Yoo-hoo! 10 minutes, yay! Yeah. Oh.
I just wanted to add something to everyone who's struggling with attachment, because I was struggling with attachment maybe for some time, because everyone is. And what helped me is there was a talk from first there was a book from Osho. He said like love is freedom, like it's the same word. And there was like a video I watched from a guy who was like a rabbi, and he was telling a story about there's a fisherman who's like fishing fish, and there's a guy asking him why he's fishing the fish, and the fisherman says, because I love fish. And the man said, no, you love yourself, that's why you get the fish and you kill it and boil it and eat it. And like most of love is always fish love, because you love how the person loves you, and that's why you go to the person and get your love. But after you have your self-love built up, and you have like your back heart chakra, like you love your body and yourself and your situation and your mind, then you don't need anything from anyone else. So it's just about, I just want to give, I don't want to take. I don't need your love, actually. I just want to give you, and you can have it if you want it. If you don't, I don't care, but take it.
We are still wrapping up, but there's just two things I wanted to say with self-love, and it may sound strange, but this is actually a therapeutic exercise. Whenever you can, try to have a mirror in front of you and masturbate into the mirror. It's not easy, I'd warn you, it's obviously difficult, it's challenging. But you go between fantasies and you go back and looking at yourself, fantasies going back at yourself, and you look by the moment you arrive. You don't have to prolong, you just arrive the first moment you can. You look into your eyes, in the mirror. And your soul, it's like a gate. It's like a magic gate, it opens up and suddenly like whoosh, and you're going to have a different relationship after that about yourself. About self-love, how to build self-love. I mean, I know this is a little bit strange and provoking, but it did a lot of trick for a lot of people so far. Okay, how do we stand? Not a question, yay. She was somewhere there. Oh, 1 sec.
Thank you. I was wondering, actually, I don't really try defining my way of being in relationship or loving, but it tends to be close to polyamorous. And actually, I was wondering, it kind of joins the question on hurting people. And well, I tend sometimes, well, I think that people tend to see me as sometimes erratic, because I try to live in the present moment and to share some things with people when I feel like to, and maybe the next day I won't feel like sharing the same things with the same people. And I met a guy actually some weeks ago that is really that has the same ways of loving than I have, and I just had the insight on how people can see me. And actually, I wonder, where is the beautiful polyamory way of just loving people without attachment? And where is the boundary with being kind of egoistic because you pursue your own pleasure, and maybe you don't realize that you're actually making other people work on their attachment, and that it's maybe hard for them actually. And yeah, I'm not sure about where that boundary is between the beautiful parts and the hard parts for other people.
Thank you for the question, especially because it raises awareness amongst all of you about polyamory. So I really suggest you, when you get home, just type it into Google, polyamory, and see what kind of returns you get. And it's really something to work on for me. And I see exactly the same problems you already experienced, except you're ahead of me because you already are in a polyamorous relationship for how long? Few years or what? Yeah, a few years. So yeah, but she raises the right question because the ego will never rest. And the ego is very tricky, very smart. And it will always come with new ways to sneak in into your fear zone and trying to like literally sabotage relationships. In a polyamory situation, it's 500 times stronger because there are 5 people involved. So you have like 5 egos, and all of them love that person who makes them to feel best. I cannot imagine to be in a polyamorous relationship where all 5 people, or 3, doesn't matter, that they all make me equally feel good. So obviously I will start having preferences. Dang, dong, I'm hurting somebody else because I'm seeing somebody more. And not only that, but with polyamory I see the biggest challenge is scheduling. I barely have time for myself, not to mention one person, but in a polyamory for 4 people, to see them regularly, oh my God. You know, I mean, it sounds funny, but in a way, I was thinking about it. Was there a last question? Done? Okay. All right, so thank you very much. Ooh, it smells lovely like toilet. Whoever wants to come with us to the pyramid, behind the pyramid where the hammocks are and whatever, we can have a little more conversation. Thank you, thank you, thank you.